Good evening and welcome to the first ever episode of Split Happens here at the Young Men's Lyceum in Tarrytown. This is hopefully the first of many podcasts to come your way, courtesy of yours truly, The Boinger. You can find me at Boinger Sports on both Instagram and Twitter. We're going to be here talking about anything. Eventually, I'd like to take phone calls. That's not going to happen tonight, but we're going to talk about everything and anything, politics, sports, you name it, current events, whatever's on your mind, whatever's on my mind. And I will be unabashed to share my opinion with all of you. And if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. So here we are, this first day of September 2021, where we have just withdrawn our troops from Afghanistan. We have calamity all over the planet. We've got the hurricane in the south, currently a tropical storm, but did some severe damage in Louisiana and other parts of the United States down south, where we hope everyone is surviving and okay. And of course, we've got rains, flooding, fires in California. I mean, it just doesn't end. So where do you begin? Nobody knows. We'll talk about whatever comes to mind. So, like to talk about the Yankees, but they stink right now. They lost 4 games in a row after having won 13 straight. A little bit of a snide, but it looks like they're going to make the playoffs. I think they need to just straighten out the lineup and the bullpen, and away they go. And that's that. So where are we now? We're in the 8th/9th month of this new presidency, and it's been utter chaos and calamity. We have a man in the White House who won't take questions and is told what to say and what to do. And the media swoons over these answers. Well, who's telling him what to say and what not to say? Who decides for him what he does? And he's in charge of this country. Makes you wonder. The last guy, outrageous, said something at least once a day that would torpedo any other normal human being's posture in life, and he got away with it. And I don't know if we were better or worse for it. I loved him. I voted for him twice. I'll vote for him again. But that's neither here nor there. Right now, we're stuck in the throes of this extreme left liberal agenda where everything is either questioned or canceled if you don't agree with them. There's no room for discussion. You're not allowed to have an opinion that isn't theirs. And you're not allowed to share anything. You're not allowed to step outside the box. We have this cancel culture, which, used to be counterculture, I guess. And it's at the forefront of everything. Everywhere you go, everything is politicized now to ad nauseum. Today, the president walked away from another press conference. Depending on what paper you read, he's either dazed and confused or he's the best thing that ever happened. Well, that just can't be. It can't be both. It might be somewhere in the middle. But compared to the last 2 presidents, I just don't see where this guy is going. Clearly, he's being led by a handful of extreme leftists. And even his vice president has distanced herself from anything that he says or does. He's fallen asleep in press conferences, and the media covers for him. He can't get the words out at times, can't make complete sentences. Every other day, the paper, depending on which one you read, has him dazed and confused and just inaudible at times. And it continues to get worse. And it begs the question whether or not they're going to try and replace him. Are Republicans going to try and impeach him? I don't think that's going to help anybody. And if his own party decides to evoke the 25th Amendment and remove him because he's incapacitated, which is what I think they really want. It's only going to work in the favor of the extreme left. And here we are suffering. The entire country is suffering with this virus. And it seems like nobody's in charge. It seems as if the last guy and this guy have no plan. We're left to our own devices. We're left with bureaucrats and those who are in power making decisions for us based on not science. They can say that it's science all they want, but it's not science. The FDA just recently, quote, approved the vaccine, but we all know that it hasn't finished its clinical trials yet, and we're about 2 years away from that. So on top of that, now they want to mandate that every child in school 16 and up receive the virus. We're talking about children now. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've had all my shots. My kids have had all their shots. I'm not one of these, everything is poison, the sky is falling. But the same people that don't trust our government and make movies about things like Blackwater and the DuPont company for poisoning us are the same people telling us, don't worry, just get the shot. It's for your own good. And if you question that, you're labeled all kinds of different nasty, rotten things. And that's not fair. There needs to be room for discourse. There needs to be room for people to question authority and get answers to what they're looking for without being shunned or told that they're wrong or ostracized for their feelings or their opinions or their concerns. We know that there have been countless approvals of vaccines in the past by the same FDA, and they continue to deny anyone the right to question what's going on here. So we're suffering right now through so many different things, and when you turn on the television, if you want to get away from it, you can't, because when you put on a baseball game or a football game, it's all politics. It's all agenda-driven politics. And it used to not be that way. I don't know if that's good or bad. People talk about progressivism and progressivism versus things like traditionalism. Somehow, progressivism has just taken this huge turn towards win at all costs. And it's not about doing the right thing anymore. It's just about winning and being in power and having the power. And once they get it, people look the other way when their guy is in charge. So we're living in a very dangerous time. We've lost our republic. We haven't been a republic in a very long time. Probably since 1913. It's probably a story for another day. But it's been a systematic chipping away at our rights and our liberties that has led us to where we are now. And people are tired of it. People are suffering. You've got virtually 70% of the workforce at home. I know the restaurant industry firsthand. As a bartender myself, I was out of work for a year. 70% of businesses have closed, and the 30% that is left is having trouble finding people to work. The math just doesn't add up. This is a progressive, far-left, extreme socialist takeover. And we're in the middle of it. We are a socialist country, whether you want to believe it or not. And if you're not awake to it, and if you're laughing it off, or if it doesn't affect you, or if you want that, maybe you're for it. Maybe it's your thought that socialism is the way to go. It's not. We know it's not. But perhaps we sat back for too long arguing about things that really don't matter in the long run, when the whole time they were undermining our values and our liberties and taking our rights away. So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about. Again, I'd like to talk more about sports, but it seems that sports is just taking a back seat now to things that are more pressing. When you're younger, you're able to blow it off. It doesn't mean anything to you. And as you get older and you see people suffering and you see how it affects your own life and your children, it makes you stop and think, this is wrong, or at least question what's going on and say, this just doesn't feel right. Somebody's going to have to explain to me how this is right, or what is right and what is wrong. Is there right and wrong? Texas today or yesterday passed a law banning abortions after 6 weeks. And I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. But far be it from me to stand in the way of a woman's rights. That doesn't mean that I think abortion is the way to go. It doesn't mean I think abortion is a good thing. It doesn't mean I think it's a bad thing. I don't consider myself pro-choice or pro-life. I would consider myself pro-responsibility. And I can tell you that it's utterly irresponsible for Republicans and lawmakers in Texas to pass a law like this. That doesn't mean that I think that abortion is a good thing. I hope you can understand that. But being responsible for oneself is ultimately what's right. And I think we've gotten away from educating our young people. I think they're being indoctrinated. They're not being taught anymore. They don't know their history. And there's that famous quote, those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And it seems like the extreme one side of the political equation is destined to erase history and redefine history. We need the truth. We just need the truth. Facts, whatever you want to call it, we need the truth. And people need to have the right to decide for themselves what they like and what they don't like, and leave it at that. And what you like and what you don't like is your own personal thing. It shouldn't have any bearing on anybody else's life and what they do. If someone's out harming themselves or harming a community of people, that's a different story. Then we can open up that discussion. But right now we're in the throes of what feels like that scene in the movie Moses, where he's up on the mountain and they're living with the golden calf. It's just a free-for-all right now. And it seems that in the wake of COVID, people have come out of their homes now and are not very forgiving. People are not pleasant to be around right now. That's just what I see. I noticed after 9/11 that for 3 to 6 months after 9/11, people kind of took a step back and realized, how lucky we are to have what we have and our freedoms. And for a while, people were a lot nicer to one another. There was please and thank you. There was excuse me. People were stopping at stop signs. All those little things that make society function and people get along pretty amenably, if you will. And then at about the 6-month mark, the politicians dove right back in, slinging the mud and dividing people, separating people. And that's what they do best. They divide us so that they can conquer us. They separate us so that they can control us. They make us take sides against one another and essentially end up hating one another. Because while we're too busy fighting one another over silly little things, and we will argue over the dumbest shit, we are like degenerate gamblers. A degenerate gambler will bet on anything. Cockroach racing across the floor. A drop of water cascading down a window. People will argue about anything. And while we're busy doing that, our politicians are taking advantage of us. They're taking away our rights and our liberties. And we want to blame each other for it. And all the while, we should be blaming them. We need to come back together. There just has to be some sort of togetherness, something to galvanize us, something to bring us together instead of separating us and dividing us on every single issue. Respect your people around you, respect their rights, respect to disagree with them, look to disagree with them. You don't want to live in a society where everybody agrees on everything all the time, but to walk away with hatred in your heart and not forgiveness is just it's un-American, to be quite honest. So hopefully we can get through this. Hopefully we'll come out of this on the other side better than we were before, stronger than we were before. But right now we're feeling a little defeated. Right now we're down in the dumps. We're down in the dumps because of things like Afghanistan. When all the while I think everybody wants our troops to come home. We just have a difference of opinion on how to get that done. Well, it's done. It's over with. A war that started 20 years ago because of George Bush. We want to blame either the last guy or the guy that's in charge right now for how it ended. But the reality is there was no exit strategy from the beginning because it wasn't about bin Laden. It wasn't about terrorism. It was about money and drugs and everything else. And I'm sure Oliver Stone or somebody else will do a movie on it in 10 or 15 years. And we'll all look back and think maybe we were wrong about how we feel right now on both sides. Back after this. So we're getting an emergency alert. National Weather Service, a flash flood warning is in effect for this area until 12 a.m. Yeah, we're on a hill. Is the Hudson River going to overflow? Oh no, the Palisades are gone. That's a lot. That's a massive amount of water. That would be, I mean, for this area to flood. Well, if the dam broke, that's a different story. Then that would be a tragedy. That would be an epic tragedy. But that's a little less offensive to me than things like New Orleans. Not that people there or here are more important than one another, but as we expand, people are moving into areas where people haven't lived before, or they're overpopulating areas that have been flooded before and have seen disaster. I'm sure there's more people living in Louisiana, specifically New Orleans now, than there was before Katrina, right? Like you'd think you'd see that and be like, I don't think I want to live there, right? That's why we have vacation homes on the beach, What do I know? There are people who live permanently on the beach, but they probably drop to their knees once a day, pray to some god that the storm doesn't hit them, or they take for granted that the hurricane's not going to wipe them out. I'm not wishing that on them, but, you got to be smart. Money can make you look smart, right? If you have a house on the beach, chances are you probably have a house somewhere else. That's just life. That's just where we are. But yeah, this COVID mandate is really, at this point now, it's just grinds my gears. To force children to take this vaccine and to take the authority away from their parents. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. There was a stat the other day, some guy, see if I can find the tweet, where he said that 99.2% of the people in hospitals right now dying of COVID are unvaccinated. Well, that means that 0.8% of the people in hospitals dying from COVID right now are vaccinated. So if you extrapolate that 0.8% and assume that everybody in this country got vaccinated, that's 350 million people. That means that 2,800,000 people would die from COVID having been vaccinated. How many people died from COVID before the vaccine was unleashed on us? 600,000, the number grows, I'm sure, but at the time of the release of the vaccination, right? It was less than 2.8 million people. So with or without the vaccine, the death rate is virtually the same. What are we doing here? Right? I mean, a vaccine is supposed to inoculate you. It's supposed to prevent you from getting that disease. If you get a shot for chickenpox, you don't get chickenpox. You may get shingles later in life, just like if you got the chickenpox. Most people get shingles later in life. That seems to be the common thread there behind shingles. But if you get the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella, you don't get measles, mumps, or rubella, do you? But if you get the COVID vaccine, you can still get COVID. You can still die from COVID. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work in terms of helping you get over the virus. I'm not saying the virus isn't real. It's very real. We know plenty of people who've been sick, and we know some people who've died, and it's tragic. Absolutely tragic. But to stop the whole world from going about their business because of the less than 1% death rate, this was all about control. Call me a conspiracy theorist. It's fine. But we've lost so many. Some people have lost their livelihood. Some people are not coming back from this. How many COVID suicides have there been because of this? Because people couldn't make a living and go to work and support their families, feed their families. They don't want to talk about that. We got a new governor in New York, another Nazi. This one's even worse. This is like going from Joffrey to Ramsey Bolton. Just when you thought you were in the clear. I wonder what Andrew Cuomo's doing these days. He's on vacation. He'll run for president. He won't get elected, though, because he's an Italian. And I can say that because my last name ends in 2 vowels. He's a fucking guinea wop dago bastard who never should have been governor. His father was a crook. He's a crook. He makes all his money off of fucking prisoners in the prison system in this state. And he got out because I guarantee you he got a sweet deal. He's either going to get a casino with his name on it or some property somewhere. Probably Rikers Island. You know, they're moving all the prisoners out of Rikers. That's probably something most people are unaware of. 20,000 prisoners are down to under 10,000. I think it's something like 6,500 now. 6,000 around there. Maybe 8,000. Somewhere in there. Down from 20,000 prisoners on Rikers Island. Where did they go? Cuomo put them in his prisons. Probably made a deal with some other prisons out of state, maybe. Who knows? They're not in Staten Island, though. We know that because Staten Island, that's where all the judges live. All the Italians. Right. Gee, maybe there's something to this. Probably not. Again, Scorsese or Oliver Stone, they'll do a movie on it. You know, if they don't drop dead first. They're getting pretty old now. Maybe Key and Peele can do a Rikers Island spoof. Get out. That would be fun. That would be something else. But it's coming. It's down the pipe. You know, it's money talks, bullshit walks. If you're taking all the prisoners off the island, what are we doing with the island? Casino deal? Gee, I wonder, is it legal to gamble in New York now? What else can you do out on that island? Grow marijuana? It's legal. It's been legalized. We're going to have dispensaries popping up all over the place. And what did Cuomo do? How convenient 10 years ago, or when he first came in, it was over 10 years ago, but just around 10-year mark. Any small business that opened up 10 years ago was what? They didn't have to pay taxes. They got a 10-year deferment. They didn't have to pay taxes for 10 years. You know anybody who's owned the business for 10 years that hasn't paid taxes? Anybody? I guarantee you there's a bunch of LLCs out there waiting to explode. There'll be dispensaries all over the place. And they'll say, oh, yeah, we've been around forever. We've been around since 2011, 2012. What are you talking about? We just decided to go into the pot business. And you can't get a license unless you know somebody. So there's that. Right? And I think they made it virtually impossible for anybody who's not a person of color to open a business like that. Whatever. I don't consider myself white.
Society does. But my last name ends in two vowels, and we weren't white until after World War II. And that's a fact. That's why we've never had an Italian president, and we probably won't ever have an Italian president. But that's okay. I'm not worried about that. We got plenty of Italians on the Yankees now. We got Rizzo. We got Gallo. I love it. Can't get enough of those Ginzos. I'm so excited to be a Yankee fan again. I don't care, win or lose. I'm going down there with my Italian flag. I'm getting a fucking sausage, right? A Peroni. We're going to live it up. We're getting a sweet. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be so much fun. I just hope we can keep Rizzo. He's going to be expensive, but he's worth it. He's the best first baseman in baseball, hands down. Not just because he's Italian, but that pretty much locks it up. And then you got Joey Gallo. Gallo with a G. Love that guy. He's only hitting 197 as a Yankee so far, but he's been a Yankee for a month. I'm not really worried about that. I think he'll be okay. All he's got to do is keep playing that solid in left field, and we'll be all right. And then we're gonna have to deal with Judge and Stanton, right? We don't know how is this gonna work out with this lineup. We've got LeMahieu. All these guys started hitting, by the way, when Odor got here. Love Odor. I absolutely love that guy. Not just because he punched Joey Bats in the face, and after I tweeted about it, Joey Bats started following me. Not bragging about that. Just that's how it played out on Twitter anyway. But you gotta love Odor. He's got fire, right? He's got that smile. When he's got the beard, he looks like a total redneck, and then he shaves his beard and he looks like a little boy, and his ears stick out, right? But he's all fire. He's got like a little spark plug, He clearly affects the clubhouse in a positive way. He brings something that some guys just don't have. He brings it. It's like when Nick Swisher joined the Yankees. They went through guys like, Raul Mondesi and Gary Sheffield. Who else is on that list of right fielders that the Yankees had to bring in, right? All these Matt Lawton, right? Who else did they bring in to try and energize the clubhouse? And all you needed was a guy like Nick Swisher, right? Happy-go-lucky, beer-drinking slob who comes out, hits third, right? Can barely play right field, but the fans love him, right? How great is that? Here comes Odor, right? He'll play any position in the field. He'll pitch, he'll catch, whatever you need him to do, he'll do it. His teammates have to love him. Right? Has to be. Then you inject Gallo and Rizzo into the lineup, and all of a sudden, guys like Stanton and Sanchez, they can hit the ball again. They needed a kick in the ass. Well, they got it. They woke now. The bats are woke. Have to wake up bats. So what are we going to do going forward with the Yankees? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't know that Cashman is going to break the threshold of the luxury tax. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because obviously we can buy anybody we want. We're the Yankees, but we've been flirting with that luxury tax threshold for a while now. Everybody seems to think Rizzo's just a rent-a-player. That would be heartbreaking to have him here for 3 months and then see him go. If we win a World Series, it makes it a lot more palatable. Thanks for the trophy. Good luck to you. But I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I want him to be a Yankee until he retires now. Now that he's here, he's got to stay here. Once you're in, you can't get out. It's like the mob. Right? Once a Yankee, always a Yankee. But we definitely, need a new manager. We need a new general manager. But how can I shit can the general manager who went from the worst guy on the planet to the world's biggest genius the next day after getting Gallo and Rizzo and giving up absolutely nothing for it and getting the teams that we got them from to pay for it? That's a genius move. And the Yankees then, they've won like 30 games out of 40 or something crazy like that. Something insane. Back after this. Hello?
Hey, Dad. I'm gonna request to FaceTime, okay?
Yeah. Something's wrong.
So this pipe on the wall.
Oh shit. That's probably just from the rain. That's
obviously.
that's a gas pipe. Do you smell gas?
No, we don't smell gas.
Well, I can barely smell, so.
I don't smell gas.
Is the water?
It's a lot of water.
Is the water running across the floor, or is it running down behind and into the drain?
Both.
All right, I'll be home in a little
There's a
bit.
drain back there?
Yeah, there's a drain over here.
Oh, it's kind of doing both.
All right, if you could put a towel under where the leak is and lead it into the drain, that probably will help get rid of the water. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anywhere else that's leaking like that?
No, nothing by the door.
No, I can check around the basement. I just told Bob, I was like, I'm gonna go check downstairs.
So that's where they did the construction. So it's probably not compacted yet. That's why we're getting water.
Okay,
That's the gas pipe.
I'm checking everything. Mom, can you turn Daddy's bedroom light on? Yeah, I don't really see anything.
All right. Really, it's really nothing to worry about unless the pipes are compromised. But that's fucking Con Ed's fault.
Alright.
All right.
When are you coming home?
Do you want me to come home?
Oh, no, I'm just asking because there's like a tornado watch, a flash flood watch, a severe thunderstorm watch.
Well, I'm not going to
Do
be
not travel.
driving through any of that. So,
Yeah, it says do not travel, Mom, so.
all right. If it gets worse, call me back.
Okay. Oh, shit. Okay.
All right. See you later.
Alright. Adios.
Bye. So Con Ed comes in this year and fucking digs up our whole fucking street.
Top of Mount Vernon as we speak. I would say this. Just looking at the radar, it looks like the rotation may have weakened some. Now,
Holy
don't
shit.
let that lull you to false sense of security that there's nothing going on, because I think there's still rotation happening, and at the very least, I think you might have a funnel cloud here. But
Funnel cloud in Mount Vernon.
First Street, up towards St.
Tornado.
Lincoln Avenue, right in here, coming right through Mount Vernon. That's gonna be a real tough. Dude, that's our house. Get to a safe spot in your building. So that means get to the lowest level, down to the ground level if you can, and take
Is it Dolores? I see Dolores.
on that ground level. So that would be, get a half bathroom, a bathroom. You got a closet under stairwell. Do that. If you got a basement, go there.
Tornado in Mount Vernon?
Basement, go there. But
That's fucking crazy.
multiple story buildings here, so being up on the higher levels is.
That's insanity. Wow. I mean, that's right on top of Pelham. That's like right over 95. This guy's saying Mount Vernon, but look at the map. That's insane. Wow. Funnel cloud. That's fucking crazy. Holy shit. Is that... Oh, global warming? Should we talk about that? All right, I'll give you a 2-minute. No, maybe not even. Here's my thing. Are we poisoning the earth? Yes. We are poisoning the earth. Are rich, white, conservative, Republican men responsible for that? No. I'm not. I definitely fucking am not. But I'm also not rich. Or white. or Republican, as I will be switching to independent. But climate change is very real, and it's been documented by scientists, and it happens every 10 to 15,000 years, give or take 5,000 years. The climate goes up, the climate goes down, the temperature changes. We've had ice ages upon ice ages upon ice ages. We've had warm spells, right? We know because there's evidence. Glaciers, right? We dig and we find evidence of what? Animals, dinosaurs. We've got rock formations that preserve time, basically, right? So climate change is not man-made.
Now, does that mean that we are not responsible for hindering it or excelling it or exacerbating the situation? I won't disagree with that. But to blame white Americans or any American for that matter, that's just irresponsible. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't strive for a better, healthier planet? No, we should. We should keep our fucking water clean. We should keep the air that we breathe fucking clean. And we should hold people responsible, accountable. And it's not white men. It's the people who run, own, operate, legislate these corporations that poison us. And we know they fucking poison us, DuPont. And they demonize people. For what? Profit. So if you're going to spat on like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the conquistadora, then you should really point your finger at who's actually to blame. Because people like you legislate in favor of these companies and they get away with fucking murder. And those responsible should pay with their fucking lives because you're taking American lives for granted. I'm going to stop there. That was pretty cool. We got a phone call. Oh, here's one. This is one of my favorite ones. So we've canceled now. We canceled Aunt Jemima, right? Because apparently this old black woman doesn't know her syrup. She can't cook. Her and Uncle Ben canceled. So now black men can't sell rice and make a living because it's racist. Is that the dumbest thing? I mean, come on. Where are we? Aunt Jemima and Mrs. Butterworth. We're just going to write them off. They're icons, American icons. Mr. Potato Head. Really? The fucking potato has to have a gender? I mean, where the fuck do we live? We're so evolved that that's what we have to argue about. Then we are so far ahead of any alien technology that we can argue about the fucking... It's a fucking potato. Not to mention, wasn't there also Mrs. Potato Head? So now we can't have Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head because some fucking far left extreme propagandist asshole liberal is upset because their kid woke up one day and said, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl. Kids don't want to wake up on Monday, I want to be a fireman. Tuesday, I want to be a cop. Thursday, I want to be a bartender. Friday, I want to be king or president. They change their fucking minds more than we change their underwear. They change their minds more than we change their diapers when they're kids. But a 7-year-old knows that he wants to mutilate his body. And as a parent, I'm okay with that. That's fucked up. I gotta get this.
The toilet is bubbling. See that?
Yeah, I see that.
What does that mean?
I see a little water down here.
All right, I'm gonna come home.
Okay.
All right,
Be safe.
I will.
Drive slowly.
All right, thank you.
The whole, the bottom of the driveway's flooded, and it looks like the street's gonna be soon.
All right, so we're having a flood. That's what's happening. The water table's rising, and there's nowhere for the water to go right now. So I'm sure Rob and everybody else is having the same problem. Let me call Rob.
Okay, thank you. Tell me what he says.
All right. Hey Siri, call Rob Mole. Anyway, let's get back to real quick, Mr. Potato Head. But here's the latest. Right, we've now seized the land from the Indians again. We've got rid of the Indians. The little Land O'Lakes butter girl, she's gone. They took her away. She's probably in one of those cages that they put brown people in. But we got the land. Kids in cages, don't get me started. Kids in cages. 500 fucking kids in cages that were there since before you know who took over. Awaiting reuniting with their families because they came here with nobody, or they came here with a fucking child sex trafficker or some fucking scumbag relative who stole them in hopes to get across the border and looking for sympathy, dragging a child with them all that way. And now these kids have no family to go back to, and we have to spend our money, time, resources, etc., to reunite them with their families. And the best we can do is put them in those cages. How many kids? There's 500 kids at the border, right? That's what the number was. They don't talk about it anymore because Trump's not president. So I'm going to assume it's either 500 or less than, since it's not important anymore. How many kids did we leave behind in Afghanistan? How many thousands of girls are being subject to Sharia law enforced by the Taliban right now in Afghanistan? Not saying that we should still be there. I'm just asking you, are you outraged, or is your outrage selective? Back after this.
Fuck off. All right, I gotta get home. This was awesome.